The whiskey burned like liquid fire down my throat, but it did nothing to drown out the echo of her scream, "My sisters," sharp and final, as the truck's headlights swallowed her whole on that rain-slicked Iowa highway. I slammed the empty glass on the dive bar counter, the wood scarred from 1,000 regrets like mine, and whispered to the empty stool beside me, "Fuck you. Good. If you're listening, why her?" That's when the air thickened, like sulfur and smoke curling from the vents, and the jukebox skipped mid-chorus, belting out a warped gospel hymn that no one had queued up. A shadow with eyes like molten gold slid onto the stool, his voice a velvet rumble that cut through the haze, "Because the devil's got better deals, William. And tonight, you're signing on the dotted line." I left. Or tried to. It came out as a choke. The kind that rattles your ribs after too many all-nighters blaming yourself for a family curse you never asked for. My name's William Hayes, 28 years old. A mechanic in Des Moines with grease under my nails and a heart patched together with duct tape since Mom died of cancer when I was 16 and Dad drank himself into an early grave chasing her ghost. Sarah was the only light left. My kid sister, 22 and full of that reckless fire that made her drop out of community college to chase indie bands across the Midwest. She'd been texting me that night. Picked up a hitchhiker, says he's got a map to buried treasure. Save me a beer? Then silence. The cops said black ice and a semi. I said bullshit. Because Sarah's car was a tank, and she'd never drive that stretch without calling first. But grief's a liar, and booze makes it louder. So when that stranger leaned in, his cologne like brimstone and bourbon, offering a napkin with ink that shimmered like hellfire, "Sign here, and I'll fix it all," I didn't think. I scrawled my name, William Hayes, in looping cursive, the same I'd used on her obituary draft that morning. The bar spun then, colors bleeding into black. And when I woke, it wasn't to the sticky floor or the bartender's gruff, "Last call, kid." It was to chains, cold iron biting my wrists. A throne room vast as a cathedral but carved from obsidian that pulsed like a heartbeat. Torches flickered with flames that whispered secrets. And demons, actual fucking demons, horned and scaled, with eyes glowing like embers, knelt in rows that stretched into infinity. The stranger lounged on a throne of jagged bone, legs crossed, a crown of thorns and rubies tilted rakishly on his raven hair. Lucifer, they called him. Not the cartoon devil with a pitchfork, but a king who looked like he'd stepped off a GQ shoot in Milan, tall, broad-shouldered, with olive skin and a smile that promised sins you'd confess on your knees. "Welcome home, my betrothed," he purred, those golden eyes locking on mine like he could see the fault lines in my soul. Betrothed? The word hit like a sucker punch. That napkin? Contract? Sealed in my blood from a paper cut I didn't remember, binding me as his consort in some infernal engagement. Queen of Hell, they murmured, the whispers slithering like serpents. William Hayes, the guy who fixed transmissions and hooked up with baristas on rainy Tuesdays, accidentally engaged to the King of Hell. And as the chains dissolved at his snap, leaving welts that burned sweeter than any kiss, I realized the hook wasn't the crash or the signature, it was him, staring at me like I was the only mortal worth dragging down. I bolted upright on what felt like a bed of silk and screams, the room a cavernous suite in this underworld palace, walls etched with murals of fallen angels mid-plunge, their wings like shattered stained glass. My head throbbed, but the hangover was secondary to the panic clawing my chest. This wasn't a dream. The air hummed with heat, and outside arched windows, framed in bone, stretched a skyline of spires wreathed in eternal twilight, rivers of lava carving canyons below. Hell wasn't fire and brimstone, it was a twisted mirror of New York, all neon veins and shadowed alleys, where demons hawked souls like street vendors peddled hot dogs. I stumbled to a mirror, full-length, rimmed in gold that wept droplets, and stared at the stranger reflected back. My flannel shirt was gone, replaced by a tunic of black velvet that hugged my frame like it was tailored in sin, gold threading my collarbone like a noose of luxury. And there, on my ring finger, a band of obsidian that warmed at my touch, pulsing with the same rhythm as my fear. William. His voice echoed before he appeared, materializing in a swirl of smoke. Lucifer himself, casual in a button-down rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and faint scars that glowed faintly. Up close, he was devastating, high cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, lips curved in amusement that didn't reach his eyes, shadowed with the weight of eons. You're handling this better than most. No shrieking. No prayers. Fuck your prayers, I spat, backing against the wall, heart hammering like a V8 engine redlining. What the hell literally is this? That napkin? You tricked me, he chuckled, low and resonant, stepping closer until I could smell him again, that intoxicating mix that made my traitorous body lean in. Trick? Darling. You signed willingly. Desperation's the finest ink. Your sister's soul was forfeit, that truck was no accident, it was a reaper's due. Collecting on your family's old debts. Gamblers. All of you. But me? I saw potential. A mortal with fire in his veins. Gay as the day is damned. Overlooked by heaven's prudes. Marry me. And she's free. Refuse. And he trailed off, gesturing to the abyss beyond the window, where wails rose like a distant symphony. Marry him. The word twisted in my gut, equal parts revulsion and something darker, a spark I'd buried since high school lockers and stolen glances. I'd come out at 19, after Dad's funeral, to a town that whispered, faggot, behind my back but never to my face, Midwest manners. They called it. Dates were fleeting, a cowboy in Omaha who ghosted after one night, a professor in Chicago who wanted me on my knees but not in his life. That was for rom-coms, not grease monkeys with trust issues. But Lucifer? He watched me like I was art, flawed and fierce, and damn if it didn't stir the loneliness I'd nursed like a bad habit. You're insane, I muttered, but my voice cracked, and he caught it, closing the distance with a predator's grace. Calloused, brushed my cheek, thumb tracing that scar, and electricity jolted through me, not pain but promise. Insane for you, perhaps. We don't do half measures. Walk with me, William. See your new kingdom. I should have fought. Summoned holy water from thin air or quoted Bible verses like ammo. Instead, followed. Because Sarah's laugh echoed in my head, and his gaze promised redemption wrapped in ruin. The corridors wound like veins, pulsing with the realm's dark heart. Demons bowed, some lithe imps with mischievous grins, others hulking brutes with horns curling like rams, but their eyes held curiosity, not malice. The consort, they breathed, and I flushed, the title absurd on my tongue. he insisted. With a wink that made my stomach flip, explained as we walked. Hell wasn't punishment eternal but a bureaucracy of the broken. Souls sorted by regrets. Reformed or redeemed under his rule. Heaven's the real prison, he said. Voice laced with old bitterness. All rules. No passion. We burn bright. We emerged into a grand hall. Banquet tables groaning under feasts that shifted, stakes bleeding eternal. Fruits bursting with forbidden juices. Demons dined. Loved openly, two males entwined in a corner. Wings draped like blankets, a succubus serenading her paramour with a violin that wept flames. It was chaotic, but a far cry from the sterile bars back home where I'd sip IPAs alone. Scrolling Grindr for connections that fizzled by dawn. Luke pulled out a chair for me, his fingers lingering on my shoulder, and I sat, the weight of eyes on us like spotlights. To new beginnings, he toasted, clinking goblets that brimmed with wine dark as blood. It tasted like summer storms and stolen kisses, warming me from the inside out. As courses blurred, caviar from abyssal pearls, ambrosia that hummed with memories, I found myself talking. About Sarah's playlists blasting in the garage. How she'd tease me for my crushes on the delivery guys. About the ache of holidays alone. Turkey for one in a trailer that smelled of motor oil. Luke listened. Really listened. His golden eyes softening. And when he shared, whispers of rebellion against a tyrannical father. The fall that shattered him like glass, I saw the man beneath the myth. Wounded. Wanting. By night's end, or what passed for it in eternal dusk, we stood on a balcony overlooking the pit. A chasm where souls swirled in cathartic storms. Why me? Beth. Voice small against the roar. Because you're unbroken? William. In a world that tries to bend you. His hand found mine. The rings resonating. And when he kissed me so searing, tasting of ash and eternity, I didn't pull away. It was fire. But the kind that forges steel. And in that moment, I glimpsed the queen I might become. Unlikely, unpolished, but unyielding. But dawn, if hell had such a thing, brought the cracks. A messenger imp scurried in at first light, horns twitching, bearing a scroll sealed in wax the color of bruises. Luke's face darkened as he read, the easy charm fracturing into thunder. Treachery, he growled, crumpling it. My brother, Michael, that self-righteous prick, has petitioned the courts above. Claims our union's a blasphemy. Demands your soul as forfeit. My blood iced. Brother? Angels meddling in demon deals? What does that mean for me? T-based? Shadows coiling around him like loyal hounds. It means war. Darling. Heaven's been encroaching, poaching souls with their honeyed lies. But you're the key. Our bond stabilizes the realms. Without it, everything unravels. I laughed bitterly, the sound echoing hollow. Great. I'm a cosmic paperweight. And Sarah? Safe? For now. But if they take you, he stopped, cupping my face. Urgency in his touch. Fight with me, William. Be my queen, not just in name. The plea hung, raw and real, and I nodded, because damn it, this fallen angel had wormed into the voids I'd hidden. We spent the day plotting, summoning allies, poring over ancient tomes that smelled of dust and despair. His nearness was torture and tonic, a brush of thighs under the table, a shared glance that lingered too long. By evening, as we trained in the armory, me fumbling a sword that sang with enchantments, him correcting my stance with hands on my hips, I cracked. This is crazy. I'm no warrior. Just a guy who fixes cars and fucks up relationships. You're more, he murmured, sheathing the blade, pulling me close. Our kiss that time was desperate, bodies pressing in the forge's glow, heat mirroring the sparks between us. Clothes shed like inhibitions, his skin like heated marble, mine scarred and mortal, and we tumbled to furs, exploring with the hunger of the damned. He was gentle where I expected force, reverent, whispering my name like a prayer as I arched beneath him, the world narrowing to gasps and grips. It was love, or the birth of it, raw and reckless, sealing me deeper into this infernal dance. Yet doubt festered. That night, alone in our chambers, Luke called them ours. Now, I found a sliver of mirror, a shard from the murals, and in it, saw not a queen but a fool, bartered like chattel. Was this romance or ransom, Sarah's freedom bought with my chains? Weeks blurred in hell's timeless haze. A rhythm of strategy sessions and stolen intimacies that left me breathless and branded. Luke was a revelation, fierce in counsel, where his voice commanded legions with the precision of a general who'd toppled empires. Tender in the quiet hours, tracing constellations on my back with fingers that could summon storms. We'd walk the ebon gardens, where thorns bloomed nightshade roses that sighed lovers' sighs, and he'd tell tales of his fall, not pride, but love for a mortal choir boy, centuries gone, whose kiss sparked the war in heaven. They called it sin, he'd say, voice rough. I called it salvation, and I'd kiss him then, just because I knew that ache, the world's judgment on desires it couldn't comprehend. But paradise, even infernal, breeds serpents. Azrael, Luke's vizier, a sleek demon with silver scales and eyes like shattered ice. Advisor since the dawn war. He slithered into our lives with deference, but his counsel carried barbs. The mortal weakens you, my liege. Heaven exploits such attachments. I'd catch his gaze lingering, not on Luke, but me, calculating. At banquets, he'd toast our union with wine that soured on my tongue, his smiles too sharp. Jealousy? Ambition? Lines blurred. As crimson moons hung low, hell's auroras, Luke called them, we hosted the infernal court, a spectacle of opulence and intrigue. I stood at his side on the dais, clad in robes of shadow silk that whispered against my skin, the obsidian ring a constant hum. Demons pledged fealty, Beelzebub, rotund and rumbling, with a laugh like thunder, Lilith, fierce and feline, who eyed me with maternal approval, murmuring, he burns for you. But don't extinguish it. But Azrael's oath rang false, his bow lingering as if tasting the air for weakness. Later, in the alcoves, wine flowing like the Styx, Luke pulled me to dance, a waltz to harps strung with siren's hair, bodies swaying in sync, his breath hot on my neck. You're magnificent, he growled, hand low on my back, igniting paths we'd mapped in passion. We slipped away to the rose labyrinth, hedges alive with thorns that parted for us, leading to a grotto where a pool reflected stars that never shone above. Under bioluminescent vines, we made love again, slower this time. Exploratory. My hands learning the map of his scars. His lips coaxing confessions from mine. I love you, I whispered post-climax. The words slipping unbidden. Vulnerable as shedding armor. Just golden eyes wide. Then crushed me closer. And you, my queen. From the moment your pen met that page, it was seal and surrender, binding us beyond contracts. But as we dressed, emerging from shadows, face a mask of feigned surprise. Pardon, sire. Urgent missive from the gates. Luke waved it off. But I saw the flicker in Azrael's eyes, resentment, raw and revealing. That night, sleep evaded me. Luke's snores a rumble beside me. I rose, padding to the balcony, where the pit churned like a beast sated but stirring. A flutter, a raven, dropping a note at my feet. Sealed, scrawled in angelic script, the king's heart blinds him. Join us, and claim true power. Heaven offers freedom, not chains. Meet at the Vale. Midnight tomorrow. My pulse thundered. Betrayal? Or trapped? Azrael's hand? No doubt. Weaving webs to unseat us. I burned the note in a torch. Ashes scattering like doubts. But the seed took root. Could I trust this? Luc? Who gambled realms on a barroom whim. Yet morning brought clarity, his coffee, black as sin, brewed with spells, waiting bedside. A posted in elegant script, rule with me today. L. Simple. Human. And it melted the ice. We rode leviathans that day, winged steeds with scales like midnight, over canyons where souls atoned in therapeutic tempests. Wind stripping sins like old paint. Luke pointed out realms, gluttony's feasts that taught moderation through excess. Lust's velvet dens fostering consent's sacred dance. Redemption's my rebellion, he confessed. Wind whipping his hair. Heaven damns, I uplift. And I believed him. Because in his arms atop the beast, kissing with the world below, I felt seen, not as a mistake, but a miracle. But shadows lengthened. Scouts reported angelic incursions, seraphim raids on border souls. Michael's golden legions preaching purity's blade. Council raged. Voices clashing like swords. Azrael advocated retreat. Preserve the core. Sire, lest the consort's frailty doom us. Luke's retort was fire, William's my strength. Not shackle. I squeezed his hand under the table. Solidarity silent but steel. That midnight loomed. I feigned sleep, slipping from our bed when Luke's breaths evened. The veil, a rift between worlds, shimmering like heat haze in the throne room's antechamber, beckoned. Heart pounding, I stepped through, emerging not in heaven's glow but a neutral limbo, fog-shrouded plains, echoes of earthly rains. Azrael waited, alone, his form shedding scales for a suit crisp as a Wall Street shark. You came, he purred, no surprise in his tone. Was the king dotes, but dooms. Join Michael, become archangels favored. Wield light untainted. I circled him, fists clenched. And betray Luke? For what? Wings and a halo. I've seen your light. The blinds doesn't heal. His laugh was venom. Healed? That fallen fool peddles pity to the damned. But you, mortal fire in demon flesh, could bridge realms. Or end them. He lunged then, not with words but a dagger of pure ether, angelic steel humming with holy wrath. Dodge. Years of shop brawls kicking in, tackling him to the mist. We grappled, his scales slicing my palms, but rage fueled me, for Sarah, for Luke's trust, for the love I'd dared claim. A roar split the fog, bursting through the veil, eyes ablaze, shadows erupting like wings. Traitor! He hurled Azrael back with a gesture, chains of hellfire binding the vizier. But Azrael twisted free, laughing maniacally. Too late, brother. The petition's filed. Your mortal soul is forfeit unless you yield the throne. The ground quaked, the veil ripping wider, golden light piercing like judgment. Michael's host descended, armored angels, swords aflame, chanting psalms that scorched the air. Luke shoved me behind him, summoning his legions in a bellow that shook stars. Battle erupted, demons clashing with celestials, claws rending feathers, spells shattering shields. I grabbed a fallen sword, hell-forged, thrumming in my grip, and fought, slashing at a seraph who dove for Luke, its wings severing in a spray of ichor. Chaos reigned, but Azrael slithered to me amid the fray, whispering, "Yield, and I spare him." But his blade nicked my side, pain blooming hot. Bookworld, horror etching his face, William, and charged, tackling Azrael in a blur of fury. They humbled, king and traitor, fists and fangs, until Luke pinned him, hellfire coiling to strike the killing blow. "Don't," I gasped, clutching my wound, blood staining velvet. "He's yours to judge." "Not murder." Luke hesitated, the mercy in his eyes my undoing. Azrael exploited it, a hidden rune flaring, a banishment spell, hurling Luke into the pit's maw below the battlefield. "No!" I screamed, lunging, but seraphim seized me, wings enfolding like irons. Michael descended, radiant and ruthless, sword at my throat. The contract voids. Mortal. Your soul to heaven's choir. Betrayed. Broken, Azrael's smirk the last I saw before darkness claimed me. Luke's roar fading into the void. Love's price. Paid in full. Light, blinding, salted me first. Not hell's warm inferno but heaven's clinical gleam. Like a hospital fluorescence on steroids. I woke chained to marble, not obsidian, in a chamber of pearl and gold that hummed with oppressive serenity. Angels stood vigil, stern-faced, wings folded like judgmental capes, their beauty cold as alabaster. Michael loomed at the foot of the daistern cot, his armor etched with runes that burned my eyes, face a mask of divine arrogance, blonde curls haloed, blue eyes like Arctic steel. "William Hayes," he intoned, voice echoing like cathedral bells. "You stand accused of infernal consortium. The courts of light decree purification." Purification. The words slithered, evoking bleach and broken spirits. I yanked at the chains, silver, searing my skin with holy fire, and spat blood, my side a ragged gash bandaged in silk that itched like guilt. Accused? I was kidnapped? You feathered fascist. And Luke, where is he? The seraph backhanded me, the slap ringing like chimes, splitting my lip. Blasphemy ill suits the redeemed. But Michael's gaze flickered, curiosity? Pity? Your demon king plummets the pit's depths. bound by Azrael's treachery. The vizier claims loyalty to us, exposing the union's fraud. Sign recantation. And join the choir. Your sister's soul ascends as boon. Sarah. The lure tugged, but I saw the hook, eternity as a eunuch in paradise. Desires cauterized, love reduced to hymns. I tasted passion's blaze, this was ash. Tell your courts to shove it. I choose hell and him. Buffed. Mirthless. From the shadows, Azrael, lounging against a pillar, his scales polished to mimic seraph sheen. Foolish firebrand. Heaven's mercy is your cage, embrace it. He approached, dagger sheathed but threat implicit, and in his eyes, I saw the truth, not loyalty to Michael, but ambition's abyss. He played both sides, selling Luke's secrets for a throne of his own, whether crowned in light or shadow. They dragged me to the airy, heaven's judgment hall, a vast dome where clouds swirled like jury boxes. The Almighty's gaze an unseen weight. Souls floated in penance pods, ethereal figures mouthing silent pleas, their regrets amplified in echoes. Michael presented the contract shard, the napkin remnant, my signature glowing accusatory. This mortal bound himself to the adversary, perverting celestial order. Witnesses testified, angels recounting raids, demons captured and reformed, spilling tales of our nights. Azrael's perjury shone, the king coerced him, a pawn in rebellion's game. Rage boiled, I strained against bonds, shouting, lies. He saved me, from your reaper's greed, but the choir drowned me in song. Harmonious hypocrisy. Verdict fell like lightning, excommunication for Luke's realm. My soul to be elevated through erasure, memories of him scoured, desires dormant. As seraphim advanced with orbs of forgetting light, panic clawed. I thought of Luke's laugh, gravel and grace, his touch, mapping me like sacred text, the way he'd say queen like a vow. I wouldn't fade. In desperation, I bit my tongue, blood welling, mortal ichor, unbound by realms, and smeared the chains, invoking the contract's echo. By blood and bond, I call my king. The hall quaked, marble cracking, clouds roiling. A rift tore open, not the veil, but a wound, black and bellowing, the pit's fury erupting. Demons poured through, Lilith at vanguard, her eyes wild, Beelzebub rumbling charges, clashing with angels in aerial melee. Feathers and flames raining. From the breach, he rose, singed but unbroken. Shadows reformed into wings vast as night. Eyes twin suns. Touch him, he snarled. Voice apocalypse incarnate. And heaven falls. He blasted Michael back with a wave. The archangel's sword clattering. Then was at my side, shattering chains with bare hands. Our embrace was brief, fierce, lips crashing, blood and brimstone mingling, before battle pulled us apart. Pandemonium, I snatched a fallen seraph blade, dual-wielding with my hell's word, carving through ranks. Lilith fought like a tempest, her claws rending armor. Beelzebub swallowed foes whole, belching holy fire. Azrael fled to Michael's flank, but Luke pursued, relentless. Brother, Michael roared, rallying. End this folly. The mortal corrupts. Love corrupts nothing. We countered, hurling bolts that sundered pillars. I joined him, back to back against a phalanx. Our synergy seamless, his shadows shielding, my strikes piercing. Seraph grazed me, wing blade slicing thigh. But Luke's roar healed it, infernal energy knitting flesh. Stay with me, he gasped. And I nodded, heart swelling. The tide turned at the dome's apex, where the Almighty's eye, a vortex of judgment, focused. Michael's plea, Father, smite the sinners. But Luke raised the contract shard, amplified by our ring's resonance. By ancient pacts, this union stands, mortal and fallen, balanced as dawn and dusk. The eye pulsed, weighing. Silence fell, battles pausing. Then, a verdict not in thunder, but whisper, acceptance. The rift sealed, not with defeat, but equilibrium. Heaven retreated, Michael vanishing in golden light, his glare promising grudges eternal. Ezreal cornered, but mercy. But Luke's judgment was swift, banishment to the void. A limbo of his own weaving, screams eternal but unheard. As legions cheered, Luke pulled me close, forehead to mine, exhaustion etching lines I'd kiss away. You called me back, he murmured, wonder in his tone. Blood and bond, I echoed, grinning through bloodied lips. Couldn't rule without my king. We returned through the healed veil, hell's spires welcoming with pyre flares. Sarah waited in the throne room, resurrected, her hug bone-crushing. Well, what the fuck, demons? Hot fiancé. Laughter bubbled, tears mixing. She met Luke, unfazed. Treat him right, or I'll haunt you. The coronation followed, a ceremony of fire and vows. Me in crown of thorns and stars, Luke's hand in mine. Demons knelt, not to fear, but fealty forged in fairness. That night, in chambers bathed in aurora glow, we consummated queenship, slow, sacred, bodies entwining as realms stabilized. Unlikely queen, he teased post-bliss, tracing my scars. Unlikely, but yours, and in his arms, Midwest boy no more. I found home, not in Iowa's fields, but hell's heart, where love defied divinities. Yet humanism whispered, power's poison, even infernal. Months on, as I mediated soul courts, granting redemptions, fostering alliances with Earth's queers via subtle portals, grinder glitches. They joked, I pushed reforms. No more eternal torments, therapy pits over torture. Luke resisted at first, tradition binds, but bent, because love yields. One dawn, Sarah visited proper, through a stable gate, bringing apple pie and stories of her band gigs. You're glowing. Hell suits you. To left. But her eyes held worry, don't lose yourself down here. I didn't. Betrayal's scar faded, but taught vigilance. Azrael's whispers echoed in dissenters, but we quashed with justice, not jaws. And Michael? Border skirmishes flared, but truces brewed, a neutral zone for lovers crossed. Gay souls finding sanctuary below, unjudged. And quiet, Luke and I dreamed, a bridge world, where heaven's light met hell's heat. Desires divine. You started it, he said, curled against me, head on my chest. Accidentally, I quipped, kissing his crown. But nothing accidental now, our reign. A testament, even kings fall. but rise with hands entwined. And so, the unlikely queen ruled, heart open to the broken, proving love's the truest rebellion, human, heavenly, hellish. Years, or eons? Time's a suggestion here, wove our tapestry tighter, threads of triumph and trial. Hell evolved under dual decree, my mortal touch softening edges, Luke's fire tempering mercy with might. We hosted accords, summits where fallen angels and rogue seraphim parleyed, brokered by Lilith's diplomacy and Beelzebub's feasts. Earth glimpsed us in anomalies, Midwest twisters birthing demon sightings, viral TikToks of ghost kisses that were our scouts recruiting the lost. I miss dive bars, the crunch of gravel under boots, but portals let me steal away, fixing a Chevy in Des Moines, flirting with a barista who blushed unknowing at the king's ring glinting. Sarah thrived topside, her band Pitfall Saints, topping indie charts with lyrics laced in our lore, fallen for a devil's grin. Heaven's loss. My win. She'd crash our court, guitar in tow, jamming with imp choruses, her laughter a bridge to the boy I was. Proud of you, Will, she'd say, hugging fierce. Queen suits better than coveralls, but her visits waned. Life pulled, a girlfriend named Jax. Tours across coasts. Don't be a stranger, I'd tease. But new roots deepen elsewhere. Luke noticed my drifts. Those pensive nights on the balcony. Pit winds whispering earthly rains. Regrets? He'd ask. Slipping arms around me. Chin on shoulder. None. Mostly. But humanism nagged, power isolates, even in passion. Demons adored us, the consort's court. They called my initiatives soul rehab that cut recidivism. Pride parades in lust's lanes celebrating all loves unashamed. Yet whispers grew, purists decrying mortal meddling, echoes of Azrael's ilk. Michael exploited. Propaganda scrolls smuggled via turncoats, the fallen whore corrupts the crown. Climax brewed slow, then stormed. It struck during the Eclipse Festival, Hell's Mardi Gras. Streets alive with revels, floats of bone and balloon souls. Confetti of phoenix ash. Luke and I danced atop the grand chariot. My crown askew. His laughter booming as fireworks spelled our names in hellfire. Then, a shadow in the throng. Dagger flashing. Not at Luke. But me, poison-tipped. Azrael's sigil etched tilt. I twisted. Blade grazing arm. Venom burning like acid rain. Fifth screams. Guard swarming. Luke caught me as I faltered. Face ashen. William. His bellow parted crowds. Carrying me to healers, succubi with salves of phoenix tears. But the toxin was celestial hybrid. Michael's spite fused with Azrael's escape craft. He'd wormed free from the void, allying with heaven's fringe. A cabal of disgruntled archons chafing eternal choirs. Delirium gripped as antidotes warred in veins, visions of Iowa crashes. Sarah's ghost accusing. Luke's fall replayed in flames. Fight, he urged. Gripping my hand. Rings flaring. You're my anchor. Clung. Whispering vows amid fever, promises of mornings after apocalypses. Of building that bridge world where queers like me, broken by bigots, found thrones not closets. Dawn broke with my stirring. Weak but whole. Luke vigil kept. Shadows under eyes like bruises. The traitors fled to the overworld, he growled. Michael harbors him, open war now. No choice. I rose. Bandaged but unbroken. Rallying legions. Not conquest, I decreed. Voice steady despite ache. But justice. For every soul they've scorned. Demons roared approval, even Lilith teared. My kings. The campaign launched at the Nexus, a contested nebula where realms bled. Armies amassed, our horde of reformed reprobates. Diverse as sin, gay incubi. Trans titans. All loves weaponized in unity. Heaven's host, rigid ranks. Seraphim in gleaming phalanxes. Michael at helm with Azrael smirking flank. Battle raged cosmic. Dogfights in asteroid fields. Spells clashing like supernovas. I commanded from the flagship Leviathan, Luke's shadow wings unfurled. Me at his side. Directing strikes with mechanics' precision. A seraph squadron dove, I countered with imp swarms. Tiny but tenacious. Clogging wings like gremlins in engines. Azrael targeted us. Ethereal blasts shearing hulls. But Luke parried. Fury unleashed. For every betrayal, he snarled. Blasting the traitor back. Wound reopening. Blood slicking decks. I pressed on, teleporting to front lines via ring portals. Sword singing through foes. A moment's lapse, Azrael teleported behind. Dagger raised for the kill. D. Pretender queen. But Michael, intervened. Sword blocking. Eyes conflicted. Enough. This farce ends. Standoff amid melee, kings and fallen. Breaths ragged. Why? Luke demanded. Shadows coiling. Michael's mask cracked. Weariness? Ancient as stars. Father's decree binds blind. But your mortals sparked out. Love is power? Unprecedented. Azrael squawked protest. But Michael bound him in light chains. Turning to us. Truce. The Kabbalist purged, Azrael to void eternal. Your union. Borders open. Souls choose. Not victory parade. But victory profound, acknowledgement. Rien détente. We withdrew. Legions cheering not blood. But bridge building. Back in throne room. Wounds tended. Luke and I collapsed into each other, exhaustion yielding to ecstasy. Bodies reaffirming life. You saved us, he murmured, tracing my fresh scar. We did. Epilogue unfolded humanistic. Accords formalized. A tri-realm council birthing. I shuttled earthward often. Mentoring wayward youth in Des Moines basements. Love's no sin, its spark. Sarah officiated our renewal vows. In a hybrid rite. Iowa chapel laced with hellfire. Jack's strumming guitar. To unlikely queens and fallen kings, she toasted. And we drank. Tears salting whiskey. Luke softened further. Vulnerability his crown's jewel. We'd picnic in ebon gardens. Debating philosophies, his celestial cynicism meeting my blue-collar hope. Humanity's flaw and fire, I'd say. Worth the burn. As auroras danced, he knelt, not in fealty, but proposal anew. Marry me proper, William Hayes. Not contract, but choice. Tears prick joy. Unbidden. Just 1,000 times. Our wedding spanned realms, hell's pyres. Heaven's harps, Michael officiating. Grudging grace. Earth's kin witnessing via portals. Vows echoed, in fire and flood. Light and shadow. I choose you. Rings renewed. Kisses sealed under triple moons. And so, the accidentally engaged became eternally entwined, Queen of Demons, King of Hearts. Proving in America's spirit of reinvention, even hell can be home. Love leads. In quiet afters, I'd whisper to Sarah's photo on our mantle, portal fetched. Grinning eternal, we made it. Kid. And in Luke's arms, I'd believe it. Humanely. Holy. Hell yeah.